so what we're going to cover today, we're going to look at one last DP10. We'll talk about that. We're going to look at the DP11s and discuss those. And then we're going to look at the pitch deck instructions for the pitch competition. But we're each going to, not each group will do its own pitch deck regardless of whether or not you're in the competition. So, but those of you that are in the competition, the pitch deck is due this Friday, April 19th. So we'll go to the website for Accelerator U and we'll look at some of the helpful hints, those types of things for putting together a pitch deck, which is really just a 10-slide PowerPoint presentation of your idea and then what you can tell people about it that kind of backs it up, right? Okay. So let's start. Let's start with this DP10, which is the paralegal services. And let me go ahead and turn on the.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a pitch?
Alright, forget it. Now I'm there.
Okay. So the enterprise proposition for paralegal services, we have, let's go to the mission statement. As you acquire clients, begin to hire paralegals versed in the area of law that matches your client's needs. As your list of available paralegals increases, your ability to obtain different clients from different areas of the law would also increase, right? Okay. Let's see here. Let's talk about the typical consumer. And these are paralegal services offered to attorneys, not individuals. So attorneys with small firms who can't afford full-time paralegals, maybe new attorneys also just getting started, attorneys who have pared down their paralegal staff, firms that might specialize in an area of law but don't have paralegals that might be able to do other projects that they're just not well versed in. So that would be something they might hire that out for that case. Firms, despite their size, let's see here, have suffered unexpected absences during a crucial part of the case and require the extra assistance. Explain that.
Well, if they've got a big case going on where they're all hands on deck type of thing, and it's flu season, 3 of their paralegals are out.
Okay.
They need the extra help. It's only a temporary, just a few
Okay.
days sort of thing.
And then so you can imagine you could add in here, what about something like maternity leave?
Exactly.
If a paralegal goes on maternity leave, right, and for 6 weeks you are down that paralegal, rather than dump the work off onto the existing paralegals, could you hire out your service? Which, there are other things. Go back to the startup attorneys. Startup attorneys, to have a paralegal, particularly today with the new healthcare law, well, they have to be thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so with your service, they could hire you when they're just getting started. It's also a less risky type proposition to take on a full-time or even part-time paralegal before the attorney really knows what the caseload is going to be, what types of cases, so hiring the right person, right? They could start up by just a fee-for-service arrangement with your firm that provides the paralegal services, right? So that would be a selling feature, value add, right? Okay.
Also help them get through that initial period where they get their sea legs, and they know what they're good at, what they want. Because a lot of times they haven't practiced yet.
Sure.
They went in, they rented the place, and they haven't had a case yet.
Right, so they're learning to, and so as they're doing that, they can work with your firm to get some of the services taken care of that they themselves aren't even that. Your firm might have better experience in a lot of these things than they would, and probably would for a new attorney coming up. Right?
And with those bigger firms, sometimes the way they work is they have partners or associates, and each one has their paralegal team, And so when that team is down, with the one paralegal for the one attorney is down, he'd have to go, or she'd have to go to other attorneys and use their paralegals, who are probably not, you know, they have their own workload.
Sure, sure, right. Okay, let's look at, here we have various consumer groups. We've kind of gone through that. We've gone through this. The volume is, so one question certainly for you to try to figure out how much would one client, so how much would a typical attorney use your services, right? And one way to think about it is, in a given week, and you start this up, in a given week, what would your load be, right? So that you can start to figure out revenue. You got to be able to estimate revenue, your costs, and how much staff you would actually need. But you have the flexibility to hire staff as you kind of grow, right? So in the beginning, you're doing most of the work.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go right from this to, well, let's look at the market. How do you see the market in the beginning? Local, regional, national?
Yeah, local.
Okay, local. So this is a face-to-face type of business starting out?
Right.
Okay. Now, let's go to what would be the next discussion post that we've had, DP11, where I'm asking you to kind of step outside of it, objectively look at it, some critical analysis, and play devil's advocate. What are some maybe holes in the plan so far? And so the three of you, let's see, 1, 2, and then Randolph, right? Okay. If I was to ask you now, what do you see so far that when you look at it, you're a little bit unsure of, or whatever?
As I was saying earlier, this is a small town. The whole Grand Strand can be considered a small town, and people set in their ways. And the first thing is going to be, you know, who have you done work for that I know, whose opinion I'll trust.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting that first client or two to then have a referral, because initially it's all going to be by referral. You have to start building a reputation,
Right.
Because the sensitivity of a lot of these attorneys feel they can do it, and so you also got to sell them the fact that you're handling what you got now, but think how many more cases you can take on if you've got this extra help.
Right.
And a lot of them feel like, I got this.
So you've got to demonstrate to the first client credibility.
Right.
What are ways you can demonstrate credibility before you have a local first client?
Samples,
Okay.
writing samples, knowledge of the court system. If you talk like you have to know the court system, how to file, how to get things done. This the clerk by first name, or and those type of things. Those are the type of things that get you like you can get things done quickly for that attorney. Mm-hmm. Normally it would take however long to do this function at the courthouse, but I know somebody over there, I can get it done faster.
Right.
You start showing that you're capable of doing that, they see the value of that.
Okay.
As far as writing, that's self-evident. You can show writing samples of the different documents that a paralegal can prepare, and that should, you can do that, and you got a footing.
Right. Okay. John, you're on his team. What would be some questions that you have about the plan?
What were some of my questions? I was wondering how we would transfer from it being a small-time operation to an internet-based type of operation. Like, would the internet be used to capture customers or start a business transaction? I didn't really know how.
Okay. Yeah, so how would you use technology? Would you use it to make it more easily accessible in the local market, or would you use it to get out to a broader market? Let's assume you used it for the local market. Let's say you're going to stay local, but you're going to have a website that tries to increase visibility, accessibility. And when I say accessibility, what I mean is they can contact you, they can make payments maybe, they go to the website and they can see how to make a payment. If they forget, maybe they've used you, but they don't recall quite what other services you provide. And so they can learn about you, right? So it's part of your marketing also.
Yeah, the internet definitely for the marketing, having a page where you have all of the testimonials.
All right, sure.
Is going to help. As far as, because the law is state-based, you operate the same in the state, statewide. But one attorney in Myrtle Beach may have a case in Charleston. So you're traveling with the attorney if they need it, or you get referrals that way. Hey, that was a good presentation. I thought you worked alone.
Right.
No, I hired out this company. That sort of thing.
Right.
So word of mouth begins to work for you in that capacity.
Right. Sure. Okay.
And yeah, the internet definitely for the marketing and that sort of thing. And then there's publications. That's legal publications that you can actually advertise in.
Excellent. All right.
Advertise those services.
Okay, so you can use really to add credibility for marketing, list of services, all of that. You could use a website that could be part of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, let's go on to another one. Let's look at. Let's see. This says Kindle added to. What is this? Are there two different ones you guys did, or is it the same?
No, it's like the final one.
Oh, so this is revised. Okay, so we'll use this. All right. So we have, this is, give me the title now of, what's the title of this business?
We did Mr. and Mrs. Fix-It, but I think we're gonna maybe segregate more towards women, so we might come up with a different names for that, right?
So you're going back to kind of the original idea was marketing toward women.
Well, yeah, well, Cora brought up a good point that we would make it like sort of a set for women to come and kind of be okay. Sort of like, how like women's choices, it's just like just for women, so women can kind of be comfortable doing like, learning these things. So.
When you say women's choice, what is that? Is that a business?
It's like ladies.
Oh, gym.
Yeah,
Right, okay. I thought that's what you were talking about. Okay,
No.
got you. All right, so.
It's gonna like target females starting up.
Right.
Because we feel like that's, if we only have so many, like we have so many finances we have to deal with, the best thing for us to do is market ourselves towards females first.
Okay.
And then eventually branch off and like involve more men.
All right.
I don't think we necessarily discriminate against men coming, but we
Right.
just really.
Your focus is women. You have a niche,
Right.
and
Yeah.
so your model then would be the gyms that are women only.
Right.
Right.
Or just like Toys R Us started being toys for all children, and then they went to Kids R Us, which is a
And
specialized.
specialized, okay, so you're going to start, and Babies R Us, right? So
Yeah.
you'll focus on the women aspect of this in the beginning. Okay, so now, playing devil's advocate, here's a kind of a long list of some things, right? So
Well,
we,
some of it seems repetitive, but it was
Okay.
just like, I was just thinking.
All right.
It's like a blur.
The first one, eventually your service might run out of lesson plans. Okay, so so here's a way to think about this. How often, suppose you give a lesson on, pick one, what's something you might,
Mac computers.
ooh, okay, so it's something on Mac, what about, what type, you want to focus your lesson? Or would it just be generally you get a Mac? You
Well,
get
we have it, like for our pitch deck, we even have an example of a month of classes that we're gonna do. So for the month of February, it would be themed, like
Okay.
it would be Apple computers or something.
Right,
So people have the choice of paying for that month or not, they don't have to.
okay,
If they don't have a Mac computer, it's irrelevant.
okay.
So then, they'll be, I think we did 3 or 4 classes a week, 3?
Yeah.
We did 3 classes a week, starting off, we never know where it's gonna go, but starting off, we would have 3 classes a week offered at 4 different times, and bearing in mind, like, kids, taking them to school, if they're working, dinner, or just like a housewife,
Okay.
like, so we set up 4 different times for the day, And then, so like maybe Monday, we would have a class about like the software and like how to use it or whatever. Then like virus protection, which I know Macs like don't get viruses that easily. But see, this is why like it was hard to come up with lesson plans because I don't know anything about Macs.
Right,
But anyway,
right.
like so, and then the next class we would have lessons on this. So if someone already knew how to do something, they could just pay for the day. If they have these computers but they want to learn more, they could pay for the whole month. And then the next week would be different stuff, still dealing with the Mac computer. And it's like, you know, just any other stuff, more general. And then we even have like maybe a free day for questions, like question and answer kind of session with the expert. So that's kind of how we set up our classes. And then the next month, we might go into like wood shop. And the next month, we might go into cars. And so each week has 3 classes, and each class is different, and they have different times. So we set it up like almost like a gym schedule to where, you know, like gyms, they have Zumba classes, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 a.m. kind of thing.
All right. Now, do other people in here besides me have questions about this in terms of a business? Let's think about revenue drivers, volume, where is it going to be located, that type of thing. Any questions like that? Yeah.
So is this like you're renting a building and
Yeah.
is it going to be big enough to hold more than one theme at a time though?
Yeah.
Well, as we branch out, yeah.
Because what I'm thinking is if you're doing just Mac computers for a month, the person who's got a clog sink who doesn't know how to unclog it and wants to be a part of this has to wait a month or 2 before you do plumbing.
Exactly.
And so if you had like different classrooms where all this stuff went on at the same time, you can feature something like Max for a month and have all these special speakers and all that, but you still have all these other classes on.
All right, now let's talk about, instead of it being classrooms, because you just imagine this building just got enormous, right? And your rent and overhead would be really high.
I said something about that.
Okay. All right, so that's on here. So let's imagine instead of that, think about just a large shop type area that has stations. And that a common thing is a garbage disposal to get clogged, right? And so you have a station that has a sink with a garbage disposal. It's all open where you can see it. There's no cabinet doors. It's right there. And that could be one that maybe you have maybe a set of instructions right beside it, and somebody can come in and
touch screen video.
Or depends on how much money you want to put out in the beginning, right? But so you could imagine stations around this thing, and you would build it based on, some of them would always be there maybe, and then some of them would rotate monthly, right?
Sort of like an open warehouse.
Like an open, exactly. And it doesn't have to be very big, right?
Right.
The idea is you got to minimize cost, but still be effective in delivering service.
And plus we want it to be small enough to where it's like an intimate hands-on. And
Right.
you're not, I don't want people, like this is a small intimate class. I don't want it to feel like someone's on stage and there's all these people learning.
Right.
That's not the objective
Yeah.
of our class.
So imagine this room. This room is probably 20. Suppose this is 20 by 25, probably. This is 500 square feet. A 500 square foot space in a strip plaza or something like that, you could probably get for kind of affordable. It's something you should look at is square foot rental rates in various areas. And then where do you want it to be? Do you want it to be in a highly visible place, which is going to be much higher square foot dollars, versus somewhere maybe a little bit out where your advertising is going to be a little bit different, right? So you got to think about those types of things. But so imagine this was the space though, and then you would come in and create your space out of this. You would set up stations, so you need different things roughed in, right? And then you set up the separate stations based on what you think on day one is going to be the most used types of features, and then you have your other rotating station, but it's in a room no bigger than this, right? So you start to think about that type of thing. What else? Any other questions or comments on this one?
Are you going to have, are your employees going to be like contract, you know how hairdressers come in,
Right.
they pay a little rent for their station, and they do their thing?
Sort of like booth renting type.
A booth renting
Yeah.
type of thing, or are they going to be on salary?
Well, we were kind of doing, we were thinking that, or we were thinking salary, but like we were saying, like with our limited costs, we didn't really know like how many employees we were gonna, you know, outsource to. So we were trying to figure that out.
And there's so, go ahead.
Like just, I remember Tessa saying one of like the discussion questions, or I can't remember, that we posted, we might just get local people in the area to start out with. Like for a month, we'll ask someone, you know, even people who are retired still know how to do these things.
Yep.
And would love to spend a month, you know, doing some freelance
Right.
work. So we might start off with like more freelance things. And as we grow, like you suggested, maybe a month we specialize in Mac computers while we still have other classes going on. As
Right.
we grow, maybe these people will be full-time salary employees. Because what we wanted was to eventually have people on salary, so they're available for our clients, because clients have the we want them to have the option of having like just one-on-one tutoring. And if that person isn't, you know, it's not their freelance month, that's going to be a little bit difficult.
Right.
And we want you to have the option of them coming to your house. Like, let's say you have to put together a table, and normally, like, rooms to go, wherever you get the table, normally they would put it together and construct it for you for an extra $80. Maybe we'll do it at like a really minimal cost, and you actually do it with that person.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep,
So
yep.
we want them to be available. So we want salary employees eventually, and maybe we start with like freelance workers.
Yeah, so imagine a 3-year plan. In year 1, well, we don't want salaried employees because that overhead, if we just take the median wage in the area of say $23,000, you don't want to pay $23,000 plus all the other benefits and costs that are associated with that you would have to provide, right? So you don't want to do that in the beginning, but you could have people, just like you said, we do have a high retiree population, and a lot of that population does happen to have come from a blue-collar environment where they were all these different things: plumbers, carpenters, floor layers, anything you could possibly imagine, mechanics, all these different things. And a lot of it sometimes is just being socially engaged, staying engaged, and some people would think this would compete with the services they might want to provide, but simply fixing a garbage disposal, once you get that done, someone might say, okay, that was simple. Since you're here and you know about this, I've been thinking about putting in a new whatever it is. And that person says, well, I can definitely help you do that. And that's not something that you might want to tackle on your own, right? So it could help a handyman type person get additional business. They'd be complementary to your service, so you can look at those types of things.
So move from a 1099 type of employee to a W-2 type of employee.
Well, going from a 1099, so you're hiring somebody out, they're bringing in freelance, is what you said, right, to somebody in-house at that point, right? And so then you got to figure out where you would want this business to go, right? What kind of direction?
Yeah. Well, if we set it up like how Salvino wants, it's more like a fair, like how you could set it up that way, where they come in and they can like booth rent space, and they can kind of like rep their product. So that's a good thing to look at though.
But honestly, our biggest concern in our plan was that people just aren't going to want to spend the time and pay for this service. You know, it's so much easier to just get someone to do it for you. I mean, a lot of times I'd rather just pay someone to fix my sink than fix it. So that's like our biggest concern is we want to, like, we really have to try to advocate, like, you're going to save a lot of money in the long run if you just learn how to do things yourself. I mean,
you can offer, so the list of
I
services.
mean, like, I'm the victim here. Like, I can't do any of the stuff that I want to teach the classes on.
Right.
So that's why,
You gotta
like,
market
I go
it.
to like an auto shop and I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. All these guys are like telling me what to do with my car, and I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with my car? I haven't fixed anything in my car yet because I'm afraid. So I'm just waiting for some guy that can help me to look at my car and tell me if they're lying to me or not.
Well, and here's a service you could offer, right? And it could be learning basic auto mechanics. How does a car run, right? You're not going to fix it yourself. You just don't want to feel like you are really going to be taken advantage of when you do take your car.
That's what we
right?
have like classes on too, because I did 1 month for computers or something, and then I did another month with automobiles, and one of them is like pricing, like how much does it really cost these auto repair shops to repair these things compared to how much you're paying.
So really what your service might be is informing the consumer.
Exactly, that too. It's not just all like doing it yourself.
Right.
Like obviously I'm not going to be able to change my oil. I really don't think I'm capable of that.
Right.
But I might be able to learn like something about it, or how much I can change a tire. That was really exciting. But like I'm saying, like, you know, like just to learn the cost of these things is
Right.
like beneficial to the consumer, so
Right.
they don't feel like a victim in these cases.
Sure.
You can help them
Mechanics
like
doing that
cut
now.
prices though too, because you know that like most auto mechanics, when they buy from like say like CarQuest or AutoZone, they get it for a lower price, and then once they install it and they sell their service to you, they mark up that price. And so that's where they make their money. They don't make that much money on their service, they make more money on the product that they mark up.
Right, and if you learn, you could have somebody,
That's what I'm
What's that?
saying. You
That's
can-
my dad.
Yeah, that's what we do, that's what I do.
okay, so you could have somebody that was maybe owned an auto shop, either type, a body shop or a mechanic shop, and it's just a conscientious person who'd like to help people understand these types of things, and you offer this class on how do you estimate repairs, how do you do these different things, what's labor, time, material, all these different things on a typical automobile, what is the process generally, so that you are just an informed consumer, which is a big deal. There's a lot of stress and anxiety of running a household comes from just that. When something goes wrong, you need to get this, your first thing is, I don't know the first thing about even who I would call, or when I go, what should it be $1,000? Should it be $6,000? You know, you have no idea in certain types of things. So just informing consumers could be a in-demand type of service that you could offer.
I had a situation like that with the refrigerator. Shut down, broke down, it was done. One guy I described it to over the phone said, listen, that's toast. I can sell you a nice one for $500. Called another guy, gave me free advice on the phone. He said, check this, I'm gonna send you a link to YouTube. Check this out, it's a $20 part. I went and checked it out, that's exactly what it was. I changed it, $20.
Yep, my dad did the same thing on our washer and dryer. It was like a belt, like a band that just broke, and the guy said, well, I'll sell you a new one for like $500.
New washer, right?
And my dad just like took it up the street, he's like, well, I got that part, and my dad installed it right there.
Right, right.
And I helped
So if you had a basic understanding of how things work, so there's even a website, how stuff works,
Right.
right? This would be the physical, how stuff works. And how stuff works a lot of times is so that you know what you're doing when something does break down, your washer or whatever it is. If you understood that it's basically a little 2 or 3 part system and it's only going to be one of 2 or 3 things, and then you have an idea, right? Yeah.
I feel like a certain segment of your business could be that maybe you have a little data, like a database of certain problems that happen to particular items often, and if you have a membership there, or you are usually paying for classes there, you can get a link to a website to type in problems that typically go wrong and tutorials that you've had on
That's what
fixing them.
yeah.
Sure.
that's what you're saying.
You know what? I just read,
Like that private access.
read yesterday, I think it was in a magazine, and it was talking about the internet. The internet is starting to contain so much information that they're going to have to be, it was a guy that used to be the editor of Harper's Magazine. Okay, now he has something else, I don't remember what it is. Anyway, he's saying the job of good internet sites or magazines or whatever is to take information and focus it on a certain thing so you don't spend hours looking through all these different things for what you need. So this, you're right, this could be a one-source shop, both internet and physical, for things like that. A database is a great feature to add on, yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'm doing a business analysis on Akamai Technologies right now for one of my other classes,
Okay,
and they do that type of business. They'll make certain networks, business networks, available to companies and structure data information to be processed into the sites that you want
Okay.
applications used for it.
so it streamlines the search function, right? So that you're not going through the whole entire World Wide Web and putting things up that are completely useless. It's reducing the time involved in the search, right?
Right, and that when you get videos, you don't have to wait for buffering times and
Right.
whatnot, and you can streamline HD video and stuff like that.
Okay, all right, interesting.
That could be one of our like niches, is like have really good YouTube like tutorials. That we
Right,
that
yeah, you could
give our
go through, and I mean, people can get on YouTube, but let's be honest, it takes a long, if you're looking for something obscure,
Sounds good, yeah.
yeah, and you have to know that what you're looking at, you have to know something
Yeah.
in order to do that.
Right.
You could
It could
draw.
also be competitive.
You could draw a lot of followers
Yeah.
on YouTube
It
too.
could also be considered
Draw some
to be
followers, and that
competitive.
will eventually.
Well, it could, but if you just brought it in as part of the
Right.
service, if you
Right.
brought in
Just
certain
give them like a little
YouTube,
preview.
and you could even create a YouTube channel, possibly, I'm not sure how this works, but of YouTube stuff that is for your type of service, right? And so you go to your site, and it's all right there, and you do a membership-based thing where they can get to yours, and it's already been pre-screened for you, and a feature for they can make recommendations. Got this, but now let's have this one question. Could you help with this? And then in a day's time, you might have that up there, and then that is something that the next time somebody comes on, it's already there.
Like he, yeah.
Yeah,
like he made a
forums,
good-
exactly.
He made a good point, like you have followers, and you could, like, other people, like, just that are browsing YouTube, like a little preview, and then
Right.
if they want to go to like the full thing, they can go there and pay, you know. get
Sure.
all that.
And then you can have the physical item located at your shop, so if they wanted to practice, you have it set
Right.
up there, so they can come and practice all they want before they start pulling apart their own system.
Right.
Right.
But as an example.
Yep,
Because if they
All right.
mess it up, we can fix it.
really good. Let's move on to this one. This is, we're calling it One-Stop Soccer Shop, okay? And so the One-Stop Soccer Shop, now I made a comment back on your discussion post because I was wanting you to tell me, one of your features would be cleat repair, right? Soccer cleat repair. Explain.
One segment of our shop. I
All
mean,
right.
we still sell goods, like
Right.
merchandise and gear.
Right, so it's a
That's
full
probably the
apparel
majority of our
and accessory shop for soccer. But then you're also going to offer cleat repair. Explain to me the typical pair of cleats. How do you repair soccer cleats?
Well, a lot of cleats are made out of, like, they have replica cleats and authentic cleats. The authentic cleats are anywhere from like $100 to $200. Like, I played every year, and I would buy a new pair of cleats like twice a year. And I'd get them for like $200 every single time. And if they're made out of kangaroo leather, and this kangaroo leather like forms to your foot. Once your foot gets like a certain size, it can start to like rip and tear. And it's not like your foot's too small. It's just it's been at this shape for such a long time. And like some people, you can take out the soles of your feet so you can get like a little bit longer out of it so it grow. But the kangaroo leather will tear. And once it tears, you can't just like sew it together. You need. My coach had a shop. His name was Numar Lopez. He had a shop in Needham, Massachusetts, and he would do it where he had a particular type of glue
All right.
that he used, like a really expensive glue that was specific just for kangaroo leather. I don't know the actual process myself. That's something I would need to learn. Like,
Okay, but I'm understanding, when you say cleats, I thought you meant the cleats on the bottom of the
Yeah,
shoe, and I didn't realize those were interchangeable on soccer cleats. Okay,
No,
so
it's
you're not
just the
talking
actual
about that.
leather material.
You're talking about the leather, so this is really like shoe repair,
Yeah.
right? Okay, just for soccer cleats, yes. I got you.
And
Okay.
soccer cleats are the only kind of cleats that are made out of kangaroo leather. Like, they don't make football cleats or baseball cleats out of kangaroo leather.
Okay.
So, not that all cleats are made out of kangaroo leather.
Right.
Like, some aren't, but
Sure,
the
right.
majority of them.
You're expensive, if you're spending $200 on a pair of cleats, you would rather not have to replace those twice a year, right?
Exactly.
Right, right.
So, like, and I had one of my cleats ripped like 2 games into like a 18-game season, and I was like, oh my god, I gotta go spend like $200 on a pair of cleats.
Right.
And I found out about my coach's service, and he's the only one who offers it, and he gave it to me for like a quarter of the price. Like, I paid $50 to get these $200 cleats repaired, rather than just buying a new pair for $200.
Right, right. Okay. All right, very good. So that helps me at least understand what you were.
Should I phrase it like a different way when we like talk about it? Like,
No, I just, for some reason, I was thinking cleats. But I'm
Maybe
thinking,
like say if they tear, don't maybe mention that they tear.
yeah, talk about the leather, talk
Yeah.
about the type of,
Yeah.
the expensive cleat, you know, that is more likely to use kangaroo leather, that someone would hope to be able to use that cleat for a couple of years at least, right? And if it does with a lot of play, like you said, twice a season, you might need to replace your shoes twice, right? That's a lot of money.
just twice a year, just like a spring and a fall.
Twice, okay, all right. So let's look at other things.
But I also talked about how, like, with the Devil's Advocate, me and Jake played around with it, like, a lot of people might ignore that cleat repair service because, I mean, this is the Devil's Advocate looking for the problem. They might ignore it because a lot of kids' feet are still growing.
Right,
So it's like, well, I could just buy a new pair of cleats because next season my foot's going to be a half a size bigger. Because I mean, the majority of the soccer players that we're going to be selling to, like, are in middle school or in high school. I mean, some people do play in college, but obviously a significant less amount.
Right, so you've got two different market groups. So in the demand analysis, do you have different consumer segments? You have different consumer segments for your soccer repair part versus your selling to young. They are growing, but the others are not, right? In clubs, you have club soccer. Go ahead, Corey.
Oh, I just had a question, like, as like a solution for the problem maybe, is what if they just wanted to buy a new pair and they sold it to you, you repaired it, and then you had like a used cleat shop, since they seem really expensive. I don't know anything about soccer.
No, that's a good idea.
But since they seem really expensive, you could just fix them and resell them at a discounted price. So people, because kids are growing, you know,
Trading.
and like mothers like to like exchange clothes versus constantly buying new clothes. Like I have 4 sisters and we all share each other's clothes and we just kept it. So you could just fix them, they could sell them to you, you fix them and then sell them back.
You could give a credit for someone bringing in the shoes that they previously bought, bring them to you, you give them a credit off a new pair, you fix them, and you sell them in the used section of the shop, which would be a great service in your community,
I
right?
will address that question.
We're also,
Go ahead, Tessa.
Well, you could also, like, it's not, I know with where I'm from, not a lot of people can pay like $200 all the time for cleats. But my dad, like, if you go like search on the internet, you can find like kangaroo oil or mink oil that helps the leather expand. So if you like have like a blue collar person that doesn't want to spend like $50 to like $100 to fix their cleats, you know, if before the problem happens, you can kind of sell that to just the middle.
Those creams are more used like for.
That's what I'm saying. So if you like get them ahead, they won't rip. That's what I'm saying.
You also have the market for people that want new cleats anyway, each year, right? They want a new pair.
Right, yeah.
You teach them how to take care of the cleats, and they bring them in next year, and you say, you'll get a $40 credit towards a new pair, and you're knowing that you're going to sell that $200 pair of cleats to somebody for $100, right? And they know that these are sitting on your shelf for $200. This person wore them. They don't look that worn out. $100 they're willing to spend, and they've got great cleats that were well taken care of, and you help them do that, right?
That's what I'm saying. You can like help them maintain it once they buy it.
That addresses that question right there, how we will not have every size in cleat in stock, but the incentive is now you buy them from me rather than online, you get the trade-in program.
Yeah.
You come back 8 months later, you trade them in, you get a credit, you get new cleats cheaper than what you gotta get them on the internet.
Yeah, the more you start talking about a highly specialized expensive, $200 is expensive for a pair of shoes. I mean, it just is. And
those are only like the best of the best.
I know,
Predator's
right,
coming out.
right.
Like, the next year, the new Predator comes out. Like Predator, that's like my favorite actually.
Yeah.
Like $200 will come up, but then the next year that cleat will be a year old and it'll be marked down.
Right.
Plus, buying online.
It'll still stay expensive.
yeah, but you could actually increase the sales of those expensive cleats by offering this type of service, where you get credit for the next year, knowing that a lot of people are going to want new cleats anyway, but there's a lot of people that want those cleats, but will pay for used cleats, right? So you could expand your sales.
Plus, having physical inventory is a selling point against internet buying. Because buying shoes and clothes from the internet, it's hit and miss.
Yeah.
You know, you buy stuff and you think you got the right size and try it on, and it doesn't work.
Right.
They go to the expensive,
But it's easier to do that.
And with
They're
cleats and stuff like that, it's
Yeah.
totally different than like basketball shoes. Like I know that I wear like, I think in my senior year in high school I wore like a 9.5 in cleats, but I had like a 10 in basketball shoes.
Yeah,
And
I
they
don't
all
buy
fit
shoes.
perfectly.
I don't buy
Well,
shoes
you
or
could-
clothes online. I don't
Yeah.
buy
For
them
like
in store.
European brands like other than Predators and like Nike that are all like in fits, you can push out to more, you know, more like European brands, which will help you out too. Because people when they buy them on the internet, they don't know how they fit.
Yeah.
So.
And when I was saying the thing with like making sure we have every size, like I talked about like personal experience, like it's so frustrating when you go into a store,
Yeah.
you find the shoe you want, and then they come and they bring out like, oh, we don't have your size, we have like a half size too small or a half size too big. If you want, we can order it for you online and wait like a week, and you're just like, people want to go into the store
Walk out with it.
and walk out with a pair of cleats, you know what I mean? They don't want to wait like a month.
Right.
And what makes our service, what makes us different than online ordering, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I can wait 5 days and go back to the store and pick it up, or I can just order online and wait 5 days and get it in my house.
Well, part of what you have to learn is there will be certain types of shoes and certain sizes that will be the most purchased and sought after, and you'll need to keep those in stock. This is going to be part of your overhead, your inventory that's just got to be there. Now, there will be certain things, somebody will come in off the wall and you'll say, we just don't stock that cleat, we can get it for you, whatever, that kind of thing,
If
right?
you got an internet sales program, you can keep a bigger stock because even though it's not going out the front door, it's still going to go out the back door.
Right, if you can order direct from the supplier, right, and have it shipped in 2 days, have them pick it up, that's a service you could feature as well, but knowing that that's a worst case scenario. You want to be able to have it in shop for them, so you need to learn your clientele and the business to know what should you have for the most part at all times, right?
And
Okay.
something with like logistics and stuff, like should we do like a just-in-time method? Should we make, what would be the best for like stuff like that? Like,
You need to review.
Our goods don't perish, so can we order
Right.
once a month?
You are going to want to have inventory in in an apparel shop. Just walk into a Foot Locker, go to Foot Locker, go to any shop, go to the soccer shop down. I really recommend you go to the soccer shop here in Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
Walk in, okay, go in there, talk to them. You're talking about Massachusetts. Just say, you know, you played soccer all your life. You'd really like to get a job there, you know, or an intern. So volunteer work for a few days, whatever you could do. But just ask them some questions; they'll help you. And pay attention to that. You know, how many for each cleat? How much do they stock? Those are the things you need to know that are just the businesses that are doing it. So that's part of the competitor analysis. One of the things you should learn from the competitor analysis is best case practices of a like business in this industry. How do they do these types of things? And I would say just-in-time inventory is not going to be your answer, right?
Yeah,
It's going to be,
that.
there's going to be a stock room of shoes that are going to be your most, and the volume.
Do you have to pay for your stockpile of inventory?
Oh, sure, yeah. So you've got to
So if
order
you had less,
inventory.
It would be less costly for you.
Right, so that's why you want to figure out an optimal balance of inventory across different types of shoes and different shoe sizes. You need to know your market so that you know we don't have a lot of 5-year-old kids coming here ordering this. Maybe for 5-year-old kids, you have 2 brands of shoes in 2 different colors, and that's it. If you want something different, we can order it for you. And then as you get older, people have a lot of different preferences. They know their experience, so you have to. So that's
size 7 to 12. I mean,
right. That's part of the business. So you just need to have an idea of how much are we going to have to spend up front just to outfit our shop, just to have it ready to open the doors, and that's a big investment. I mean, a retail shop, part of the biggest outlay is going to be your inventory. You've got to have a nice, well-stocked inventory, so when people come in, they can see variety, and they can just look around and browse. And
so don't lose potential customers.
right, because you don't have the stuff in the shop, exactly. Yeah, if you're going to be a physical shop, there's got to be a lot of stuff in there. Yeah, and so you need to start thinking about.
I'm a size 13, and I go to shoe stores all the time, and they never have my size.
Right.
Yeah, so that's like, we want to have every size so we can just separate ourselves from the people that don't have the size.
Yeah, and so you pick a certain shoe that's an affordable range for the typical customer, but that might be in that size range, which is getting more common today. There are more people wearing a size 13 today than there were 20 years ago. So, and you have the shoes, and they come in, and you've got 13s, right? So those are the things that you just, in terms of your business model and how you're going to run the operation, you need to figure out so that you do lower your overhead, but you have it well appointed enough to meet the demands of the typical customer, right?
And at the very least, like, you should always keep on hand one set of a certain size of a pair of shoes so that they can try it on before they order it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, maybe you might not have a pair for them to walk out with, but at least they know that when they're walking out of there that it fit them and that they're going to have it.
Right, and that's something to look at too, and then see how do other businesses typically do this. And you know, so if yours is soccer specific, so I would recommend going to the soccer shop and asking them, how do you deal with this? It seems like a huge outlay. You know, how often do you order shoes? You know that, and then it's going to be seasonal too. You just know that before the fall season starts, they are getting a huge shipment of shoes in. In the middle of that season, they're not getting a giant shipment in. So it's not month to month. You don't outlay this every single month. It's a couple times a year, right? And then you have your clear out sales, and then you get ready to replenish with the next year's models. And that's just how
Indoor
the
soccer shoes during the winter.
that's how the flow's going to go,
Because they
right?
have the Plex down here. I know it's not as big down here, but I mean, we're making it open mass, so
Mhm.
it's big. I mean, we're going to need some indoor shoes during the winter.
Right. So again, that's part of your market. You have to know the local market and know what are people going to be looking for. So and ultimately, to be the best shop you can be, it's being the shop that your customers want it to be, right? Within reason, that could be a profitable business to deliver.
And
to,
research
right?
your supplier, your supply chain really well too.
Right.
A lot of times businesses don't really look into who they're supplying, who
Right.
they're being supplied by, and people
Sure.
just don't ship when they're supposed to.
Right.
They have bad
Yeah, it's
reputation
also
of
like
shipping.
effective communication with
Yep.
their suppliers and stuff like that.
Okay, so you can see though, there's a lot that can be learned from just going to existing shops, talking to them, and thinking about how these things work, right? Okay. All right, let's move on to light cycles. So what are some, I'll just ask you, as you look at it,
Yeah.
devil's advocate.
I really try to address two concerns I have. The first one is the lack of government regulations
Okay.
that governs e-bikes. This is on the federal level. When you get down to the state level, which I think hinders a lot of the demand, is that every state varies with their how they govern electric bicycles.
Okay,
So having that variation really seems to decrease, drastically decrease the demand and the ability to manufacture bicycles in the United States.
okay. So manufacturing, so in terms of starting a business, being able to get your product,
Yeah.
because so that's why. So with this, remind us again, these aren't currently manufactured in the United States?
There are very few that are manufactured in the United States. Most of them are purchased from Germany,
Okay.
just in Europe for the
All
most
right.
part, and shipped over. That adds a lot to
And
the
so
cost.
let's talk about, pick a state. Let's say you start in a state and you have a physical shop. Is that what you're planning?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, I guess just actually building a manufacturer. Maybe not selling them directly to the consumer, but selling it to the retailers.
Okay, and so you have to know on average, if you looked at 50 states and they had 50 different regulations, but maybe 25 of them have the same, for all intents and purposes, regulation, right? And what is it that is regulated? The speed the bike goes?
Speed, the limit on the power of the motor, I think
Okay.
750 watts, that kind of varies.
Okay,
I think some of the things for the bicycle, like having lights or some other, accessories on it.
so you need to come up, if you're going to manufacture,
Uh-huh.
or have manufactured, you need to select the set of features and options that would meet the typical state's regulations so that it's street legal.
Mhm.
So that a typical consumer in a certain state can buy this and use it, right? Knowing that then there will be certain states where this bike's just not legal, right?
Mhm.
And that's pretty
Yep.
much the environment right now why it's
Mhm.
not that
Yeah.
widespread here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and there's really no state law governing some of the newer technologies with the bikes too, like
Okay.
pedal assist or just, the new battery technology. It's really, this is oversight on, 10 years ago when they first came out.
Okay, John?
One of my questions would be, how long ago were like the regulations on these bikes made, and
Yeah.
would it really be that difficult for you to try to, I don't, let's not say lobby, but
Mhm.
try to
Mhm.
get these things changed?
It's possible. I think there's a need for it, especially with the new technologies coming out. I don't really know how to go about doing that or even predicting. I tried to do a little research to see if there's anything that works, if there's any actions going.
Right.
But
And this
it
is one of
doesn't seem
those-
to be on the federal level, at least. I think, they're kind of letting states kind of update. I think California is the most ahead as far as the state level.
Okay.
Their regulations have, come to pace with some new technologies and
Right.
allowed to do a little more things than just, regular bicycles. Because
Sure.
pretty much states classify them as regular bicycles, with a motor.
Okay.
But having the motor on it, they limit the size of the motor, just so, they can kind of conform with regular bicycle standards.
Right, right. This is a perfect example, though, of where when you have a regulatory issue with a product or service, this is an example where we see that we talk a lot about lobbying and rent seeking, but it's definitely not always the case that lobbying is something that is a negative thing for society. This is a case where you can do nothing other than lobby or try to get this regulation to make sense with the current economy, right? So that you can sell these bikes to people. It's a good product. There's no reason why it shouldn't be legal, but regulations in many states just don't allow them, right? But there are some that would.
Yeah.
So the problem is, it's a difficult process, right? It's a difficult process. A lot of money would be spent in time. Do you have to lobby yourself? How does that process work? to try to get this law, then get the law in place. How long does that take? So that's why you can see this is an example of when lobbying is what's necessary. If there is a regulation on the books that prevents this from being a business, you can see how innovation and entrepreneurship are being pushed down, right? It's not being allowed to grow and flourish, even though this might be a really good market for this thing with no adverse effects on the society, right?
Yeah,
So,
you can see my example, demand near the bottom, I think 1,600 or 160,000 units are sold in the United States, but 33 million are sold,
So 33
globally.
million units globally, 160,000 in the United
In the United
States.
States, yeah.
Right. So clearly, there is a potential market here.
Mhm.
The roadblock is regulation. Right. Okay. Yeah.
I would say if you were to find the friendliest states that are
Mhm.
closest to where you would
Yeah.
like the regulation to be,
Yeah.
and then get with those states that are the same or close to,
Mhm.
and then get the green lobby
Yeah.
on board with you.
It's easy.
Something
I
like
think,
that would work.
California and New York probably do have some of the most successful small businesses. Well, they don't manufacture them though.
Right,
They
bring it in,
usually
right.
Buy European models, which
Sure,
are
sure.
very
And
expensive.
this is where you can see, this is why there are differences. This is one very big reason. When we talked about the Baumol paper, entrepreneurship, productive, unproductive, and destructive, and then we can also look at startups across states. There are differences in the amount of startups each year across states. A significant driver of that is differences in the business climate or the regulatory environment. So there are states where, not just in general, but particularly by industry, and in this case, by industry, you would see more startups in state X versus state Y simply because that state has the business environment or regulatory environment that doesn't impede the creation of that type of business there. And that's why you would see this be offered in that state, but not in another state, because trying to get that changed in another state could be really difficult. And so what you would do is start this in a state, like was suggested, where you don't have to worry about that. And as your business grows over time, you're working on this in other states. But as you're building your business, and then they finally say, we've changed the law, it passed this year, and you're watching that, and then you say, all right, we're going to move an operation there starting in 2 years. Whatever, that's kind of how things grow, yeah.
And these impediments may not be as bad as they seem, because some states that would not endorse it themselves would still honor states that would. So if you're in California and they're good with it, but the next state over is not,
Potentially,
they may still honor it, and it'd be okay to drive.
Yeah.
I guess ride the motorcycle.
I would even argue that most
across the state
people working
line
with the
like that.
Department of Transportation or anyone that would be, that could actually fine you for,
Right, that'd be the
proper
difference.
motor size. It's very technical, I think, in
Right.
a lot of aspects, and I don't think there's a lot of,
That's
I wouldn't
right.
want to sell an illegal product, in certain states either.
Right,
But,
right.
I think it would be easy to sway, different
I have a question about
regulations or actually get something moving there.
what state and where are you gearing regionally your market?
I think initially, it had to be small, so probably start maybe in a state like California or New York, where the regulations are a little bit more lax. It'd have to be, I wanted to actually manufacture these and then maybe sell it to local retailers, cheaper than what they can import.
Would it be more popular in more European type cities? Because, some places you wouldn't want to use an electric bike, out in the Midwest where it takes
Yeah,
30
and-
miles to get to the closest grocery store.
Yeah, of course, and that's part of the reason why it does cater a lot more to the European and say Asian countries as well. But I think a lot of cities in the United States, can cater very well to this.
All right.
It's just they're not very practical as opposed to just getting, you can buy a regular bicycle for $200 and $300, or you can get this European electric bicycle that can go, maybe a lot faster, but costs like $2,000. Yeah.
Okay, so good discussion. Now, let's finish up. We've got about 5 minutes left. Here's a slide that comes from the CoacceleratorU.com link for the pitch competition. This is a link that said, use this slide as an example of how to create an early stage pitch deck. So I just clicked on it. Here it is. We created this, but this is like 22 slides. This is how to create your pitch deck. So certainly for the two groups that have to do this by the 19th and submit it, and then for the other two groups, or three, you don't have to do it by Friday, right? So let's just go through this real quick. About us, sample companies. This is probably who has used this service. You know, I'm not sure actually what this is. Polaris Venture Partners. Okay. Intro. I've seen thousands of early stage decks over the last 2 years. Most mistakes are relatively common. Most are easily addressed. This is a guide to creating your pitch deck. Just one investor's advice. 2 parts to this walkthrough, 5 overarching guidelines, and then 2, an example structure and flow. 5 themes, guidelines. 1, a great one-liner. Think of it as your elevator pitch in 1 sentence. It's a hybrid of, for example, your product vision, your company purpose, a starting point for the pitch. Common framework. We are X for Y, assuming X is attractive and Y is a big enough opportunity. Okay? So a one-liner. Know your audience. This again, go to the soccer shop in Massachusetts, know your local market, right? This will help you figure out how you're going to inventory and those types of things.
Can we give demographics on each?
Well, let's look at it. Who are you meeting with? Certainly, generally, in business plans, their demographics are incorporated, right? For the pitch deck, this is something that we're just now getting into and understanding, and I'm learning this with you guys. So, what does a pitch deck look like? What are they looking for as in the business, in the competition? What are they looking for? So, who are we meeting with? What's the investors and the firm's focus? Are there related investments? How much time do you have? Okay. Questions you'll be asked will relate to this. Know your audience. And then when they say audience here, they're talking about who you're pitching this to, is assuming you're going for investor funds, right, or a loan in a competition environment. Okay? 10 to 15 slides, as we said earlier. The conversation, so that if you're in a 60-second competition, you have 10 slides, but you don't want to be reading your slides, right? You just want them to kind of motivate you to talk, and then you talk about your idea up front. Budget your time accordingly, allow for discussion alongside each slide. Okay, this is competition specific. Beware the demo. For early stage companies, it's all about the product, and the best mark of the product is market validation. Demos are great, but remember these 4 rules. Be careful of time, don't get lost in product, have a backup if something goes wrong, give even weight to product and traction or data. Okay, that's if you had a real product or service with a website, that type of thing. Expect the deck to be shared. This is the biggest question we had was, would anybody be able to look at this but us? Whether you like it or not, your deck will be shared, for example, among the partnership. Be equally compelling with or without voiceover. The deck should tell its own story. Do not rely on builds or intricate slides. Make the file size manageable for email. PDF or secure URL are great alternatives to PowerPoint. All right, suggested structure. This is the meat, particularly for those of you who are not going to be in the competition. This is just what it should show, right? The big idea, why you, the current problem, your solution, why now, traction and validation, what's the future, and then the ask. What are you asking for? Are you asking for $30,000? You know, what are you, $3 million? 10 to 15 slides. Now here's the structure. How many slides on the big idea on each part of this, right? The vision, okay? Expanded company one-liner, the big vision today and tomorrow. Okay, here's an example using Foursquare. The team, why are you the right team for the problem? Include management team, advisors, investors, bios with that, relevant experience, outline the vision and responsibilities. So for example, the 2 teams we have here that are in the pitch competition, you talk about each of you, what do you bring to the table right now for this type of thing. And certain of you are going to have you, for example, you need to really be upfront about you're the main driver of this team, right? And then talk about the rest of the team, what they bring. Okay? The market, the opportunity, the current problem, your solution, why now. And you can see how a lot of this is just drawn from the demand and supply papers, right? And so then you're just putting it into a 10 to 15 slide presentation, really is all it is. How big is the market? How big can you be? What value are you creating? Be realistic. So again, imagine these questions with the soccer shop in Massachusetts, right? And think about those types of things. I don't know what that says. Problem, solution, market size, market potential. market size, landscape, product, market fit. Your product, your traction, you set the stage, now show off the product, traction, validation. Is the product resonating? Is it trending in the right direction? Engagement, engagement, engagement. What are your KPIs or goals? All right. Ready for zero, product traction. Okay, and this is probably going to be beyond most of the entrants in this competition. This is for when there are existing businesses or services that are looking to expand and they're looking for investors because they're trying to take it to another level, right? The future, 12 months and out. Okay. The next 12 to 24 months, product, people, performance, finances. So that's something that every business has to think about. People, like on your guys, you're thinking in 12 to 24 months in the beginning, it's freelancers. We're bringing people in, but you said in maybe 2 years, 3 years, you might want to have people on salary, right? And your business would be very different in that time period. Okay, the ask. A pitch deck cannot crescendo without a clear ask. What are you looking for? What size investment are you looking for? How long does it get you? How will you spend it? What are goals before the raising the next round? How else can you invest your help? In order to ask that question, you have to know at least one thing, assuming you haven't started it off. How much would it take to start this business, right? How much would it take? So for your guys, for example, X number of square foot space in a certain location, you guys should know, and you can find this on different sites, for what would retail space cost, right? What would you need? What would it take to outfit it, so that you know about what it would take to start the business, right? And in terms of investment, you know, you're looking for all that portion of that. You're going to raise half of that with family and friends or yourself or whatever. Then you're looking for half that amount. You got, and that shows that you've done some homework. If you can't answer that question, then you haven't looked at the most important thing is, which is what would it actually take financially to actually start this thing, right? Okay. All right. So again, that's on CoaccelerateU.com. So everybody can go to that and look at these types of things, and there's some helpful tips there.